Before I dive into my story, I want to make it clear that I've always been the good guy. My name's Alex, and kindness was my middle name. I steered clear of trouble. No drinking, no smoking, no wild parties, and I kept things clean with the ladies. So, as you listen to what happened, keep in mind this was a time when I was really questioning everything about life and myself. Now here's where things start. You see, I've always liked both girls and guys. It's not something you'd notice about me, and unless I mentioned it, you'd probably have no clue. It was only a handful of guys that caught my eye. And after some online reading a few years ago, I realized it was okay to feel this way. To be honest, I'd never been with a guy before. I was quite shy, struggled with making friends and forming relationships, so naturally I turned to the internet and set up a couple of dating profiles. Initially, my search was all about finding a girl. Sure, the idea of dating a guy crossed my mind, but the thought of facing judgment held me back. We weren't exactly living in a place known for its openness, so sticking to dating girls seemed like the safer choice. But trying to find a good match among women turned out to be more frustrating than I anticipated. The women I met online were far from what I was looking for. I ended up swiping right on just about anyone, only to match with women I didn't find attractive, single mothers, or women who just didn't seem serious. It might sound harsh, but the women on these sites didn't seem like quality people, and the ones who did never responded to my messages. Now, I'm not saying I'm the hottest guy around, but I'm not bad looking either. I thought I'd at least find someone on my level. Clearly, I was mistaken. There was this one time I got really excited because a woman agreed to go out with me. She was beautiful, no kids. Seemed perfect. Then came the night of our date, and she texted me about her car breaking down, asking for $500 for repairs, promising to pay me back. I blocked her immediately and decided to take a break from women. That's when I thought, why not try something new? So I made a profile on Grindr. Honestly, I had nothing left to lose at this point. I figured there had to be some good guys around, someone who could be more than just a temporary fix until I found the right person for a serious relationship. The very night I set up my Grindr profile, I matched with a guy who was exactly my type. Tall, strong, and confident. We decided to skip the usual dinner date and jumped straight into more personal activities. It was an amazing night, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Before I knew it, I was hooked on the thrill of one-night stands with guys. As the months flew by, I found myself living for the weekends, sometimes even sneaking in encounters during the week. Then, I met Fred. Despite his harmless-sounding name, Fred was the most dangerous person I'd ever crossed paths with. Fred had a thing for role-playing, which was new and odd to me. He was incredibly controlling, and for some reason I just couldn't refuse him. He was demanding and cruel, making me feel worthless. After giving him my number, we started seeing each other regularly. He insisted that I shouldn't meet anyone else, only him. Looking back, I wonder if he was drugging me. It's the only explanation for why I always gave in to him. Things got worse quickly. Our activities began to turn dark and extreme, the kind you might stumble upon in the deepest corners of the internet and wish you hadn't. I remember being choked until I passed out, unable to speak or resist. When I tried to tell him that this wasn't for me, he didn't care. And then he demanded something unthinkable. He wanted me to harm an animal. It was as if he had programmed me to obey him, and I almost did it. In a moment of clarity, I hit him and ran. I blocked his number and did everything I could to avoid him. He didn't give up easily, showing up at my workplace a few times, but I stood my ground. I told him I was done with men, especially him. Reflecting on all of this, it's clear how traumatic it was, a fact I only realized afterward. He was manipulating me through roleplay, and the fear that he might do the same to someone else haunts me. I attempted to report him to the police but lacked evidence. Last month I got a restraining order against him, hoping that would be the end of it. The entire ordeal escalated so quickly, and it's made me reconsider everything about dating. I've decided that from now on I might only consider dating women if I decide to date at all. In March, I met a guy on Tinder. Let's call him Tom. Tom was very sweet at first, and I, being someone who trusts easily, felt safe with him. I was living alone in my college dorm, so I invited him over. When we met, I didn't notice anything wrong, except he seemed to like me more quickly than normal. but since I often doubt myself, his attention felt really nice. I won't hide it. We ended up sleeping together that night, and he visited 2 more times. He had to move back to California soon after we met. I've always wanted to move to California, so I wasn't upset. A few days after he moved, I told him I smoked, and his reaction was a big warning sign. It wasn't his dislike for smoking that bothered me, but his saying he couldn't talk to me anymore because of it. I felt very close to him, and his words hurt me, even made me cry a bit. I got angry, told him off, and blocked him. Before Tom, I had a friend I'd hang out with sometimes, and after Tom left, I invited this friend over, hoping to forget Tom's hurtful words. But Tom started texting and saying sorry, claiming he just wanted to see how I'd react. My ex had played similar mind games, so I saw Tom's behavior as a bad sign. Yet he wouldn't stop calling and texting. I tried to ignore him, especially since my friend was over, but after my friend fell asleep, I ended up responding to Tom. I'm too kind sometimes, so I decided to give him another chance. The very next night, I found myself at a party with a friend. Let's call her Sarah. In a moment of openness, I shared with Sarah the whole ordeal with Tom and how mean he had been, including all the red flags from before. Sarah immediately understood it was a dangerous situation for me. She took my phone and helped me block Tom on all platforms. It felt like the right thing to do. But when we got back to my room, I noticed texts and calls from a new number. I answered, and it was Tom. I was in tears, texting Sarah about everything, and how I just couldn't bring myself to hang up. Sarah came to pick me up again, and she took my phone to tell Tom he was being creepy and needed to stop contacting me. But Tom kept saying he loved me and would see me next Tuesday when he returned to our town. I was scared. No matter how much I asked him to leave me alone, he wouldn't listen. Sarah and I blocked the new number, but then another unknown number started calling and texting. It was Tom again, using different numbers, and even finding me on social media platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. This situation was terrifying. We kept blocking him, and for a short while he stopped. Sarah suggested I email my residential advisor about Tom threatening to visit me, which I did. I asked to meet the RA in person. Over the next few days, I had to block 9 phone numbers and multiple social media accounts from Tom. Finally, I talked to my RA, who involved the housing manager, and eventually, a police officer got involved. The officer couldn't do much since Tom was in another state, but he warned him over the phone to leave me alone. Tom promised to stop contacting me, and for about 12 hours, he did. I moved to a new dorm building for safety, and everyone was on the lookout for Tom. However, Tom continued his attempts to contact me with more phone numbers. My anxiety was through the roof. My friends were always by my side, making sure I was never alone. Then, for a while, Tom stopped, but about a month and a half ago, he tried to reach out again using a new number. I was starting to feel safer again, until that moment. I had to block several more numbers that night. I haven't heard from Tom since then, but unknown numbers still make me anxious. Tom, if by any chance you're listening to this, please, I'm begging you, leave me alone forever. About 7 years back, something happened to me, and I've kept quiet about it until now. I want to share what happened so people understand the risks of meeting strangers from the internet. I was supposed to meet a man from an app, maybe OkCupid or something similar, but I don't think it was Tinder. His profile made him look like any other guy. Back then, I was a 21-year-old woman with a fuller figure. I grew up in a tiny town, making it tough to meet new folks. I'm not the outgoing type, so using apps to meet people was my go-to method. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? We sent a few messages back and forth and eventually shared phone numbers. He asked me to come to the house he was renting. It was around midday or noon when I went, so it didn't seem odd at the time, but the town was so quiet, probably because most people were at work. I arrived at the address he gave me after finding a spot to park on the street. The house was small and unassuming. The house didn't look scary from the outside. As I walked up, the man came out to greet me without waiting for me to knock. He didn't welcome me inside, and when I entered, the house seemed almost empty, as if no one really lived there. More like it was used for storing old stuff. Everything was covered with sheets except for an air mattress lying in one corner. He could tell I felt out of place and suggested we go for a walk. So we wandered around the neighborhood, which felt deserted. We ended up sitting at a baseball field nearby, barely speaking. Suddenly, he pushed me to the ground. I struggled, thinking I could push him off, but I wasn't strong enough, and he started pulling at my clothes. I wanted to scream but couldn't. Somehow I broke free from his grasp and ran across the field, fixing my pants as I went. I sprinted to my car, drove away as fast as I could, and thankfully he didn't follow. I never told the police. I was too upset to even think about it. Later, driven by some foolish courage, I returned to the house and saw some men out front. They looked dangerous and unwelcoming. I asked about the man who had attacked me, but they claimed they didn't know him and that nobody lived there. They tried to approach me, possibly to drag me out of my car, but I drove away fast. I still don't understand why I went back. Maybe I was looking for some proof or closure. I reported his online profile, but it was as if he didn't exist. It was like chasing a ghost. Just like many have advised before, always be cautious about meeting strangers from the internet. Always meet in public places. It's better to be safe than sorry. This story is one of the scariest things that ever happened to me, and it was also the time I felt the most danger, even if I didn't know it while it was happening. I am a 19-year-old girl living not too far from a medium-sized city in Virginia. Even though a big city is just about 40 minutes away by car, where I live feels very empty and far from everything. During this time, I was studying at a local college to become a nurse. Like many young women who haven't yet found a boyfriend or husband, I decided to try dating apps on the internet. I was a bit scared to do it, but I didn't like going to parties much, and I didn't know any guys I liked, so using Tinder seemed like the right choice. At first, it didn't go well at all. The first month, all I got were offers for one-night stands and messages from creepy men wanting to do bad things. A few men tried to seem charming, but it was clear they just wanted to sleep with me. The only good thing from all this was that I made $50 by selling pictures of my feet. You might laugh, but $1.50 is still $1.50. Eventually, I realized I had to either lower my standards or find another way to meet someone. I decided to take a chance on one of the guys who seemed less weird. He didn't tell me much about himself, but he seemed nice. He said he had a job, came from a good family, and had finished college. We met at a coffee shop in my town and got along right away. We clicked instantly. He was kind, ambitious, and smart. These were all things I was looking for in a guy, and he looked much better in person than in his profile picture, which was surprising. Later, we drove around in his car for a few hours, just talking. What did we talk about, you ask? Conspiracy theories. As soon as we were alone, he started talking like a crazy person about conspiracy theories. When he first mentioned the government listening to our talks, I joked, saying something like, "Okay, Alex Jones." He didn't find my joke funny, and things got a bit awkward for a while. But then he went back to talking about the government and aliens. Honestly, I found some of what he said interesting because it seemed a bit true. However, some of his ideas didn't make sense. It was as if he could connect point A to point B, but then he'd jump from B to X without any reason. Eventually, we changed the subject, and things felt normal for a bit. We started sharing about our past relationships and other personal stuff. That's when I felt a strange connection to him. Even though he was a bit odd, I felt like I was becoming close to him. After 2 or 3 times going out together, I started to ask people about him. I'm not one to listen to rumors, but I like to know who I'm spending time with. Most of the people in town that I talked to said they had never heard of him. This was strange because he lived here and you'd think someone would know him. The few who did know him had weird stories. One story went like this. He had once rented a place above a beauty shop in town. According to the story, one day he got very angry, stomping around and shouting. It didn't sound like he was just mad. It seemed like he was convincing himself to do something. And what was he shouting? "Kill them! Kill them!" It sounded too strange to be true. I couldn't believe it was the same guy I knew. Yes, he had odd ideas, especially about conspiracy theories, but he seemed normal otherwise. I kept thinking about this story during our next few dates, trying to see if he could really act like that. I just couldn't believe it. But I was so wrong. One Friday night, after I finished all my homework for the weekend, he sent me a message. He wanted me to come over. I really didn't want to. I was exhausted from school, and wanted to spend the night alone. I put down my phone and went to take a shower. When I came back, I had 53 missed calls. I was scared something terrible had happened, like something had happened to my mom. But all the missed calls were from him. My texts were full of messages from him, all saying the same thing in capital letters. I need your help right now. Not sure what to do next, I called him back. He picked up the phone right away, sounding very scared and worried. He explained that he thought someone had broken into his house because he heard a loud noise like a door being smashed open. He had been feeling this way for about half an hour. I told him if he hadn't found anyone by now, maybe there was nobody there. It seemed clear to me. But he was sure someone was inside. He said after hearing the loud noise, he found a door wide open. He believed whoever did it was still inside, hiding and waiting to attack him when he least expected it. I started to doubt his mental state. It was hard to believe his story about the door. I wondered if he might be losing his mind. He kept insisting I come over to help him. But I'm just a young woman, not a superhero. What was I supposed to do? I decided I wanted nothing more to do with him. I blocked him on everything, hoping the problem would just go away. I tried to distract myself with a movie, The Lion King, and some ice cream. Then, my mom asked me to buy her some cigarettes. I had to drive past his house to get to the store. I didn't think he would do anything crazy, but the thought of being near his place made me uneasy. As I drove by, I saw police cars everywhere. My heart sank. Guilt washed over me, thinking maybe someone did try to break into his house. I stopped and walked towards the scene, asking a police officer what happened. He said the man living there had taken his mother hostage with a gun. I couldn't believe it. He wasn't the victim, he was the perpetrator. I rushed back to my car and drove off fast. That night shook me deeply, making me wonder what could have happened if I had gone to his house. Luckily, nobody was hurt, and the police arrested him after 3 days. He's in prison now. It was the most terrifying experience of my life, yet I still use Tinder. When I turned 15, I was a big fan of anime. There was this website I used to watch anime, and it had a chat feature where you could talk to others watching the same show. This chat was part of a promotion by a dating site. I signed up for the dating site, wanting to make some friends. I had just moved to a new place and didn't know anyone since it was summer break and school hadn't started. I met some cool people there. One of them is still my friend, and I'm going to his wedding soon. But then there was Alex. Alex said he was 16. He was into art, anime, writing stories, dressing up as anime characters, and the same music I liked. We started talking a lot, and after 5 months, around the end of November, we decided to be in a relationship. Alex always asked for my pictures, just normal ones of my face. But when I asked for his, he'd say his phone camera was broken. I found that strange, but I tried not to worry about it too much. I found out more about him, like how he spent a lot of time on adult websites and other stuff, which I didn't mind. But then he started asking for inappropriate pictures of me, and wanted to do things in chat that made me uncomfortable. I didn't send him any pictures or go along with his chats, and I told him I didn't like it. He stopped talking to me for a while, but about a week before Christmas, he messaged me again. That's when I first saw someone taking pictures of my house. I told my mom, but she didn't take it seriously. I saw him again on Christmas in a different car. I told my mom, but nothing changed. He snapped a few more photos, and this time my mom called the cops. Before they got there, she came into my room and saw me chatting with Alex. She took my laptop right away and grounded me, warning me about the dangers. When the police came, she explained everything, including my chats with Alex. The officer wrote down what I said and promised to keep an eye on our area. A few days later, the man came back, and I got a clear look at him. The next morning, my dad showed me a website with lots of men's faces. On the 5th page, I recognized him. We told the police. My dad explained the man was known to them already. Later, another officer came and said the man didn't own the cars I mentioned, so they couldn't investigate him further. I was sure it was him, but we were told they needed more evidence to act. The next day, we found our dog dead on the porch, a plastic bag over his head and his neck broken. My parents thought it was an accident, but I wasn't convinced. We buried our dog, and about a week later, the same police officer came back to tell us the man had run away. He was wanted for other crimes. They searched his house, close to ours, and found photos of our place, some taken inside. There were pictures of me sleeping, with him touching my face and worse. They found our chats on his computer. He was 57, not the age he told me. I won't say his real name to keep my privacy. He's still missing, maybe out of the country. I'm scared all the time now and have PTSD. What they say about online strangers is true. Don't trust people you meet online without seeing them face to face. And never share personal info if you haven't seen them on camera. Seriously, just don't. I usually just read stories here, but thought it might be time to share mine. I've never talked about this with anyone, not my family or friends. It's been 10 years holding on to this, and I think it's time to share. Maybe there's something to learn from what happened to me. So here's my story. I'm 27 now, but this all happened when I was 17 and just starting college. I was excited for a new beginning because high school wasn't great for me. I was the shy, nerdy type and had never dated anyone. College didn't change me much. I was still shy and didn't meet many guys. One night, I got a friend request on MSN from a username that looked like it could be from someone with a background similar to mine. Curious, I accepted it. Let's call him Ken for this story. When I asked how he found me, he didn't really answer. I didn't think much of it. Back then, adding anyone as a friend seemed okay. We started chatting and soon found out we lived in the same city and had similar backgrounds. He said he was from India, just like me. He didn't have a photo of himself online, which led to him suggesting we use our webcams. I was hesitant, but eventually agreed. I was relieved to see Ken was a normal-looking guy my age. Our chats went on for weeks, moving to texts and phone calls. I started to like him. He asked me out a few times, but I was always busy. Finally, we set a date for lunch. He offered to pick me up in his car after my class. I dressed up a bit, excited for my first date. We planned to go to a vegetarian place. I didn't tell my friends about the date because I felt embarrassed. A black car with dark windows pulled up. It was Ken. He looked good, but the car smelled strongly of smoke, which caught me off guard. Despite feeling uneasy about the smoke, I got in when he opened the door. As soon as I sat down, he put his hand on my thigh. I moved away, feeling nervous. I asked if he knew where the restaurant was, offering to help direct him. He just smirked and drove off. After Ken stopped messaging me, I thought he had moved on. But things didn't end there. He had once asked me late at night to come over, even offering to send a cab. His assurance of no sex, I promise, just made me feel sick. I didn't reply. He kept trying to reach out for months, then suddenly stopped. I hoped that was the end, but it wasn't. I didn't hear from Ken after February. His silence continued past Valentine's Day. In April, I visited a relative, let's call her Anne, in the Caribbean. Anne was very spiritual and had strong ties to India. During our stay, Anne introduced us to her friend Connie from India, via Skype. Connie seemed nice at first, but we were unaware of the chaos she would soon bring into our lives. Connie turned out to be a criminal, targeting my family before Anne even met her. Her chance meeting with Anne was a setup. She stole a huge sum from us and destroyed our sense of security. When we confronted her, she denied everything, then vanished. This chaos connected back to Ken in a way I never expected. During the ordeal with Connie, she stayed with us, pressuring me to change schools and asking inappropriate personal questions. I was too stressed to notice anything else. After Connie disappeared, I received a call from an unknown number, which turned out to be Ken. My shock was indescribable, realizing he was part of this twisted plot. I couldn't prove Ken and Connie were working together, but too many things added up strangely. When Ken called me out of nowhere, I was scared and angry. I warned him I'd call the police if he ever tried to contact me again. His reply was a creepy laugh, and then he hung up. I felt sure they were trying to worm their way back into my life, but thankfully Ken never contacted me again. Later, talking with a family member deeply involved in the situation, she confessed her fears about Connie's insistence on sending me to an obscure school in the US. She feared it was all a plot related to human trafficking, and I might never return if I went. That conversation made everything click for me. I remembered Ken's odd promise of no sex, and Connie's advice to stay a virgin. It dawned on me that Ken might have been part of Connie's scheme, perhaps to keep me isolated. We never went to the police about Connie or Ken because on the surface, nothing clearly illegal had happened. It's hard to explain. After everything, I tried searching for Ken online, but found nothing. It was as if he never existed. I can't help but feel I wanted to expose him, but there was nothing to go on. This story might seem confusing. It's hard to tell without giving away too much detail or names. My hope is that it serves as a warning. Be cautious about who you trust, especially online. I've become wary of spiritual organizations since then, although I know they might mean a lot to others. But for me, after this experience, they're not something I can accept. So stay safe out there. And to Ken and Connie, if our paths ever cross again, I won't hold back. These days, talking to someone new is super easy. Just grab your phone, download an app, and there you are. You can check out all the single people near you without even leaving your bed. But about a year ago, I had an experience that made me rethink the whole online dating thing. Back then, I was 21 and pretty bored with how things were going in my life. One evening, while looking through a very popular dating app, I came across a profile. He was tall, had dark hair, bright blue eyes, and a great smile. Seemed perfect. We hit it off right away and decided to meet up for dinner and maybe watch a movie at his place afterward. I know, going to someone's house on the first date isn't the best idea, but I was feeling adventurous. I took a quick shower, put on my comfiest outfit, my go-to sneakers, spritzed some of my favorite scent, and I was out the door. He lived in a big house, which seemed pretty fancy and right for someone with his job. So, I didn't doubt he was who he claimed to be. I reached his door and knocked. In a few seconds, this incredibly good-looking guy opened the door, and we just clicked right away. We were seeing each other for about a month when one day, out of the blue, he turned to me and said, "Can I tell you something?" "Sure, what's up?" I responded, curious about what he had to say. He looked me straight in the eyes, very serious, and said, "When I first saw you on that app, I actually thought about killing you, but then I decided not to." He was holding my hand as he said this. Chills ran down my spine. I realized he wasn't joking. I was frozen with fear, couldn't speak, couldn't move. He leaned in closer and whispered, Are you okay?" That's when I snapped back to reality. I grabbed my things, ran out of his place, blocked his number, and deleted the app from my phone. I never want to meet someone like him again. During the lockdown, I started using Tinder to meet new people. Most of my matches didn't lead anywhere. Until recently, I matched with a girl, let's call her Anna. We chatted on Tinder for quite some time, and then she suggested moving the conversation to Snapchat. Thinking it might be more fun, I agreed and shared my Snapchat with her. After adding each other, Anna immediately asked if she could visit me to hang out. I kindly refused because I had just met her, and I wasn't interested in rushing things. Anna seemed annoyed by my refusal and kept insisting on coming over. I repeatedly told her I wasn't looking for that kind of thing at the moment. She went quiet for a bit. Then about 10 minutes later, she sent a message that read, "I'll see you soon." Confused, I replied, asking what she meant. After half an hour, I received a Snapchat from her. It was a photo of a streetlight on a dark road. It was past midnight, and I wondered why she was outside. When I asked what she was doing, she sent another photo. This time, it was of a baseball field at night. I stared at the picture, trying to figure out why it looked so familiar. Then it hit me. The reason it felt familiar was that it was the field right across from my house. I quickly messaged her, telling her to stop. She saw the message, started typing, then stopped. After a few minutes, I thought she had left. Curious, I peeked out my window to check if she was still there. I noticed the dark shapes of what seemed like 3 people standing near a car. As I watched from behind my blinds, a light suddenly shone on me, and someone from the group shouted, "There he is!" I quickly shut my blinds and curtains and double-checked all the locks on my doors. Then there was knocking at my door, followed by a woman's voice screaming, "Open up now!" Panicking, I called the police, asking for help as soon as possible. Our town is small, with few police officers, The station informed me that the officers had just handled another call but would drive by shortly. I shouted through the door that the police were on their way. A moment later, I heard a car speeding away. I peeked out again to see the car had disappeared just as the police arrived. They came to my door, and I explained everything. Unfortunately, I had no evidence of the encounter. I thanked the officers as they left, and then secured every door and window before heading to my room. I decided to check my Snapchat to understand how Anna found my address. This story began in the hot months of 1998. After finishing my second year in college, I decided to try out Yahoo Personals. I sent replies to some posts and started talking to a few girls. But after a while, some of these chats just stopped. I guessed maybe they found someone else or just weren't interested anymore. There was one post that really caught my eye, though. The girl's username was Shy Girl, and it had some strange numbers behind it. We were about 2 hours away from each other. She seemed really into me, saying I was different from the guys she's talked to, and that she really wanted to get to know me. We started emailing and using Yahoo Messenger to chat quite often, but she talked about sex a lot, sharing her experiences. It felt like she wasn't that interested in getting to know me first. It's not that I was against getting close to her, but we hadn't even met yet, and talking about this felt too soon. Honestly, it made me feel uneasy, but I didn't say anything and just kept chatting. We shared some photos by email, and she seemed to like mine, but the photo she sent looked really old. Once, she sent me a file that my computer said was a virus, so I didn't open it. I did talk to her about the virus thing, but she didn't reply to that at all. This should have made me suspicious. We started talking about things we liked, including stuff related to sex. We also talked about meeting in person. She mentioned she had a guy friend who passed by my area a lot. She wanted me to meet him for some sexual reasons, to see if I was good for her. This was a huge warning sign. Why did I need to meet some guy to get to her? What was his plan with me? It all sounded very strange. I told her I wasn't okay with that, and it made me uncomfortable. She said it was fine, and asked if I would meet him at a local Walmart. He was supposed to bring me a pair of her underwear. I agreed, but I never planned to actually do it. This was too weird, and I was losing interest fast. By August, the day came to meet this guy at Walmart. I told her again I wasn't into it. We talked a bit more and decided to just stay chat friends on Messenger. But I ended up blocking her not long after, and never heard from her again. I'm so relieved I never gave her my phone number or address. I shudder to think what might have happened if I'd met her friend at Walmart. What was really odd was that, when I tried to look her up, I found nothing. I had no idea who I was really talking to. Luckily, a few months later, I met someone else on Yahoo Personals. We ended up getting married, so sometimes online dating can work out. But let this be a caution to everyone. Always trust your instincts. This story is really scary, but every word is true. A few months back, I made a decision to join Tinder. I put up some photos of me looking good and started looking through other people's profiles. Not long after, I matched with a very handsome guy. We got to talking. He was smart, looked great, and had really nice manners. It almost didn't seem real to me how perfect he was. But after we talked for a week, he suggested we meet, and I was happy to say yes. We agreed to meet at a restaurant in town that I knew about. I got there on time, but he hadn't arrived yet. I must have waited around 15, 20 minutes when this old man came up to me. He asked, "Hey, can I sit here, dear?" I told him, "I'm waiting for someone, sir." "Yes, I know. I'm the father of Joe," he replied. "His dad? But where's Joe?" Right then, the man got really angry and started yelling, "You witch! You're all the same! Am I not good enough for you? Come on, I'll take you to your precious Joe." He grabbed my arm and tried to drag me out of the restaurant. Luckily, a waitress close by saw what was happening and helped me. The man let go then. I was so shocked by what happened that I just sat in the restaurant for more than an hour, drinking wine. When I finally felt ready to leave, I realized I had drunk a bit too much wine and started looking for a taxi. The same man was standing near the restaurant's exit, so I walked over to ask if he could drive me home. But when I got close to his taxi, I saw it was the creepy old man from before. He tried to pull me into the car again, but I ran away and called the cops. The police came, and I told them what happened. I think they took the man away, but I'm not sure because I never saw him again. After getting home that night, I immediately deleted Tinder from my phone. I just can't see myself using it again after what happened. I made a Tinder account when I was 18. Being alone in a huge city, I ended up going on many exciting dates. This one guy stood out because he was incredibly good looking. We talked a bit, and I really liked him, so we decided to meet for coffee. He was kind, interesting, and we talked a lot about school, art, and music. We discovered we were both into music, and the date was going so well that I agreed to walk a short distance to his place to listen to him play music. Being new to dating online, I was still quite innocent, so I followed him into his odd room in a garage and sat on a couch while he took out his keyboard. He played for a bit, and I began to feel uneasy. He was really into the music and started hitting the keys hard and making strange sounds, so I quickly stood up and said I needed to leave soon. He suddenly became normal again, his voice changed, and he didn't look so strange sitting there. When he said sorry for getting too excited, I decided to sit down again so we could keep talking. He sat next to me, and we continued our conversation from before. He seemed normal and nice again, so when he asked if he could kiss me, I said yes. He moved closer to me, and I closed my eyes, waiting for a kiss that never came. When I opened my eyes just a little, I saw him just looking at me. I was shocked and tried to move back, but he had grabbed my hair so tightly I couldn't escape. He took a deep breath and said, "You smell like you're Jewish. I know because you smell like my aunt's place." At that moment, I was terrified, especially since I am Jewish, and I tried to pull away, telling him I really had to leave. Suddenly, he was on top of me, and I started to cry out of fear, begging him to let me go. He kept saying he was sorry if he scared me, his weight pinning me down. I had no choice but to pat his back, pretending I was okay and calling him sweet, just to make him stop. I had to promise many times I would see him again before he finally got off me. I walked to the door, trying to keep calm and insisting I needed to leave right then. He blocked my way out. I knew I couldn't fight him. He said I had to kiss him if I wanted to leave, so I quickly did, hoping it would be enough. He smiled, seemingly happy with just that. "Call me, please," he said. "I think that was nice," he mentioned, opening the door for me, and I hurried out. As soon as I was far enough, I called my mom, crying. She got me a taxi, and I blocked him on all our contact methods. I saw him once again at school, which was more than enough for me. I hope we never meet again. I was working at this small motel in the South as the night person, so my job was from 11 at night until 8 in the morning. Being a lady and working those hours, I've seen some strange stuff. But the most terrifying thing happened in my first few weeks there. It was almost time for my shift to start, and since I was single and 23, I was checking out people on Tinder before heading to work. I matched with this guy who seemed pretty cool. He was into dark gothic stuff, liked using Ouija boards and tarot cards, which I find interesting. I was excited to talk to him. We chatted for a bit, but then I had to leave for work. We said our goodbyes. That night was my first time working alone at the motel for the whole night. I was a bit scared, but then this guy, who I felt like I'd seen before, walks up to the front desk and asks for me by my name. Right away I felt something was off with him. Not how he looked, but the feeling he gave off. I confirmed that I was the person he was looking for, and he told me he was the guy from Tinder. He figured out I was close by and decided to check if I was working at the motel he was staying at. Yeah, he was a guest at my motel. That was a huge warning sign for me. I stayed behind the safety of my desk for 2 hours because he wouldn't leave me alone. He talked non-stop about his ex, how he used to fight people, and how he was interested in me in a very forward way. I was really uncomfortable. I'd never dealt with something like this at work before, so I didn't know what to do. Eventually, around 2 or 3 in the morning, he said he was going to sleep, and I finally took a break to go outside for a smoke. Just as I lit up, guess who comes out? The creepy guy. I had looked him up a bit, and found out he was a painter working in the area, which meant he wasn't a local. He started telling me about where he was from, getting closer and closer to me as he spoke. He then asked if he could smoke some weed. Wanting him to leave me alone, I said yes. I pointed to a spot away from the cameras, and that's when he pulled me close, smelled my neck, and started to touch me inappropriately. I pushed him away hard and warned him to never touch me again. I dropped my cigarette, grabbed my phone to call my manager, and went back inside. But the man grabbed my phone and sent himself a message. Now he had my number. The first thing he sent me was a shocking picture of his private part, which looked very strange because of body modifications. I've seen things, but nothing like that. Then he sent me scary messages with pictures from adult websites that were very rough, saying he wanted to do those things to me. He even told me he knew where to find him in the hotel. I was terrified and couldn't understand why I didn't call the police right away. My manager wasn't picking up the phone. There I was, in the back office having the worst panic of my life. Then I got another message from him. I don't know why I looked, but I did. It was a video that was too horrifying to describe, mixing violence and sexual content. I locked myself in the back office, cried, and waited until it was time to prepare breakfast for the guests. The messages continued for a few days until I couldn't take it anymore. I finally told my manager everything. He acted right away, kicking the man out and banning him and his company from our hotel forever. Looking back, I should have called the police, but I was too afraid at the time. To the creepy man, I hope we never meet again. Around 4 years back, I spent a year in a small town in Austria for my studies. Just before I left, my boyfriend and I broke up. He went to the US, and I headed to Austria. At first, I was pretty sad about it, but then I thought it might be fun to try out Tinder and go on some casual dates since I was only going to be there for a school year. I met quite a few people through the app. Some dates were terrible, but others were with nice folks. I was living in a small Austrian town, and there were people from all over the place. A couple of months after I arrived, I matched with a French guy. We started chatting. My French wasn't great, and his English was about the same, so sometimes we didn't understand each other perfectly, but it was okay. I was 20 years old, and my dating age range was set to 20 to 27. This French guy, let's call him Alex, was 27, so quite a bit older than me. He told me he taught science at a girls' school, which made what happened later even stranger. We decided to meet for a drink, and Alex was really generous, buying several rounds. That was a big deal because I was just a student without much money, especially in Austria. By the end of the night, I was quite drunk, and I remember we kissed a lot. Then, Alex drove me back to my place where I was staying for school. We saw each other a few more times, and he always made sure we had plenty of drinks. One night, I stayed over at his place because it was too late to go home. When I woke up the next morning, I found out he had taken off my bra while I was sleeping. He was awake, just rubbing my back and staring at me. We hadn't gone further than kissing up until then. And then, out of the blue, he said his mom was coming over and asked if I wanted to meet her. Keep in mind, I had only met him a few times. I knew I had to end things with this strange man, so when I left his place, I was already thinking about how to tell him I didn't want to see him anymore. Back at my room, I got a weird message from him. It was in broken English, something like, "We sleep beautifully together." I didn't reply. That evening, he called me, but I didn't answer. I listened to his voicemail later, and he sounded really upset. He said he was falling in love with me and needed to be honest about something. He admitted he had lied about his age. It made me think of a TV show where someone accidentally dates someone much younger, thinking they're older. And I had thought maybe he was younger than 27 because he looked pretty young. But no, he said he was actually 35. For me, a 35-year-old lying to date a 20-year-old felt wrong. So I blocked him everywhere, on social media and my phone. And tried to move on, especially since my school term was almost over. Then one day, he showed up where I lived. He had only known my address because he drove me home once. The person at the front desk had to ask him to leave because he wouldn't go, and they warned me about it. Thankfully, I didn't hear from him after that, and I was going back to the UK in a week for the holidays. During my holiday, I got a friend request on Facebook from a profile that looked real enough, so I accepted it, thinking maybe I knew them. That was a mistake. I received a long message from him saying he had tracked my flight back to the UK to make sure I got home safe. That was beyond creepy. I blocked that profile too. But then, another message came from a different profile a week later. He said he had looked up flights from Bristol to Geneva and guessed which one I'd take back after the holidays, planning to meet me at the airport. I couldn't believe he might actually guess my flight, but when I arrived and walked through the arrivals gate, there he was, holding a sign with my name and flowers. He was looking elsewhere, so I quickly walked past him and caught a train into the city. I had already told a friend about this, and we decided to go to the police. This man was not normal. After dealing with the police, I didn't have any more problems with him. Hopefully, he moved on to someone else. But it still bothers me. He's a teacher, after all. I was 21, just started working as a cop, and had just been broken up with, so my mates told me to try Tinder. Being young and new to the police force, I felt like nothing could hurt me. I matched with this stunning girl who seemed way out of my league. We hit it off chatting and decided to meet up. She told me about this big open field where we could watch the stars. She suggested we meet at her place first. So when the day arrived, I was buzzing with excitement, and she seemed thrilled too when I picked her up. She directed me to the field, which was really open and surrounded by woods, filled with deer and other animals. Far off, I noticed some very faint car lights. Suddenly, a van started driving straight toward us and stopped right in front of us, almost blocking the way. I told her to stay put in the car and went out to check. I took my flashlight from the car and approached the van. There was a big guy driving. I asked him what was up and if he could move his van back a bit. He was nice about it, saying he owned the land and didn't mean to scare us. He explained he had problems with people hunting illegally on his land and wanted to make sure we weren't here for that. I told him we just wanted to watch the stars and see the animals. He seemed cool with it, wished us a good evening, and left. After that, the girl wouldn't stop texting on her phone. About an hour later, I saw car lights coming at us fast. We jumped into the car, and I got ready for trouble. The same guy stopped his van just short of hitting my car. She suddenly got out and ran to the guy. That's when I realized things were really bad. I got out, trying to get them to back off. They didn't listen. Then the guy rushed at me and knocked me down. Somehow I managed to flip him over and stand up. Then I saw my date pull a metal pipe from the van. She said they had a gun and wanted the cash in my truck, or else. But I couldn't just give in, not with my head full of being unbeatable. She began to cry, saying they didn't mean any harm. He moved towards the car again. That's when I told him I was a cop, pulled out my hidden gun, and ordered them to lie on the ground. We all froze for a second, then they did as I said. I called for help, shared my details, and said I had 2 people at gunpoint needing backup right away. I tried to explain where we were as best as I could, but then they ran off. Despite knowing better, I ran after them. The guy dashed into the woods near the field. Barely 30 seconds in, I heard 3 loud bangs and saw the flash of a gun. My fearlessness vanished instantly. I sprinted back to my car and drove off fast. I went back to where I had picked her up, called for help again, and waited for other officers. The first to arrive were my sergeant and my trainer. They didn't go easy on me, calling me dumbass and stupid rookie. They drove me back to the field. The van was still there. They told me to keep quiet and only to come out if there was gunfire. They checked the area and then the van, finding drugs right on the dashboard, and searched the rest of it. What really shook me was their reaction after checking the back of the van. They looked scared, which scared me too. Inside, there were knives, duct tape, lighter fluid, lots of bullets, handcuffs, and what seemed like dried blood. In the front, there was a rifle and 2 more guns. We called for more help and detectives. The so-called blood turned out not to be real blood. The van's license plates were stolen, and the van itself was reported stolen. I'm still teased about that night, but thankfully nobody was hurt. I've sworn off online dating for good.